it participates in the personal life. This is how I understand Unitarian Universalism. Not a glorification of martyrdom, but the necessity of liberation and the sacrifices that are necessary for the freedom of all. The fierce urgency of now, beloveds, is here. It has always been present, of course, in a nation founded on the genocide of indigenous peoples and the unpaid labor of formerly enslaved Black people, children, and women. The difference is that there are no lines that are sacred for the authoritarians in our nation. They will do whatever it takes to create a society of homogeneity, of whiteness, that allows the rich to get richer, Christianity to become an empire through Christian nationalism, and cisgender men to
Welcome to the Unitarian Church of Hinsdale. You may notice that there aren't many of us today. Today our church joined the Dupage UU Church in Naperville for a joint Martin Luther King Jr. service. Our choirs have joined together and our minister, the Reverend Dr. Beth Johnson, is sharing the service with Reverend Mandi Huizenga, and our Director of Programs, Pam Fodor, is partnering with Steve Cooper for religious education. The services there are 9 a.m. and 11:30 a.m., and we will be streaming the 9 a.m. service for you this morning. We are so glad you are here.
Good morning. Welcome to the Sunday morning worship service at Dupage Unitarian Universalist Church. My name is Kat Gelder, and I am a member of the Board of Trustees. Unitarian Universalism is a faith tradition committed to creating a just and flourishing world for all people. Our Universalist theology tells us that every person is worthy of love. And thus, when we say, whoever you are, wherever you are on life's journey, you are welcome here. This is our message of love to you, inviting your whole self into our space to help us co-create a world centered on our values. We invite you to learn more about us and to consider joining this community to enact our values of equity, justice, transformation, pluralism, independence, and generosity. If you would like to explore ways to connect and get involved, please stop by the newcomer welcome between services in the lower annex, or contact Tina Lewis, our Director of Membership and Engagement. And we are so excited today for our special service to welcome to our sanctuary and our space the Unitarian Church of Hinsdale, our neighbor congregation. Welcome Reverend Beth Johnson, minister, Pam Fodor, Hinsdale's Director of Programs, Julia Beckman, choir director, and Jamie Pastman, music coordinator. We're so glad to have you here today. Reverend Mandy, Steve Cooper, our DRE, and Carl Kennedy, our Director of Music and Worship Arts, have been so blessed to plan this joint MLK weekend service with the Hinsdale staff. As a member of DUUC's Board of Trustees, I am delighted to host the members of the Hinsdale congregation. We invite you to join us after the service for coffee hour and to stay for our adult learning class between services. We will be learning about privilege and race with the teens of our youth group as we explore the Black Panthers Party. Welcome. And now, if you are online, I invite you to greet each other through the chat. And if you are present here today, I invite you to turn to someone you did not come with and greet them with a wave and a good morning greeting.
Together, we light this chalice to center ourselves in the sacred moment. We call upon the ancestors, those who tended the flame before us. We call upon our children, whose brilliant spark remind us to seek out courage and challenge. We call upon one another to remind us we are never alone on the journey. We call upon ourselves to hear the call of this flame and to nurture it with love.
Good morning. Welcome to this space. Welcome to this place of love, this place of communal flourishing. We gather each week to open our hearts, to expand our minds, and to see the sacred within each other. We come into this space today to honor Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., to bring into being the hope that he lived and died, with words by Reverend William Sinkford.
Beloved, I invite you to just breathe with me for a moment. Spirit of life and love, dear God of all nations, there is much work to do. We have only begun to imagine justice and mercy. Help us to hold fast to our vision of what can be. May we see the hope in our history and find the courage and the voice to work for that constant rebirth of freedom and justice. That is our dream. Come, let us worship and let us dream together.
Many of you in this room were privileged to have known the composer of our next piece. Amanda Thomas spent decades as a music director, choir director, and soloist, serving in many of the Chicago area UU churches, including here at Dupage. Her mentorship led many of us, including myself, into this work, and I can confidently say that I would not be standing here today in this role if it were not for Amanda. Though not published until 2023, Amanda first conceived of and wrote The Fire Fuels Our Fight in 2019, after a series of arson attacks at historic black churches in Louisiana. This piece is a small part of Amanda Thomas's larger legacy in Unitarian Universalism, one that continues to challenge our largely white denomination to live into and to live up to the values that we so proudly claim to hold. The text you will hear is a combination of Amanda's original words, along with those adapted from Still Here by Langston Hughes. The original poem reads, "I've been scarred and battered, my hopes the wind done scattered. Snow has frizzed me, sun has baked me. Looks like between them they've done tried to make me stop laughing, stop loving, stop living. But I don't care. I'm still here."
Despair been scarred and battered, my hopes the wind shattered. Snow has froze me, the sun has baked me. Looks like between us they done tried to make me stop laughing, stop loving, stop living, but I don't care. No, let them go, cowards burn our churches in dead of the night. Oh, death, despair, and racism try, war and trying to take my power, but no, death, no despair, I'm gonna get a hold of my power, can't let it, no, hold me powerless, the fire's fuel of mine.
Please join me in a responsive reading, A Network of Mutuality by Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King, Jr. We are caught in an inescapable network of mutuality, tied in a single garment of destiny. Injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere. There are some things in which our social system, to which all of us ought to be maladjusted. We must evolve for all human conflict a method which rejects revenge, aggression, and retaliation. The foundation of such a method is love. Before it is too late, we must narrow the gaping chasm between our proclamations of peace and our lowly deeds which precipitate and perpetuate war. One day we must come to see that peace is not merely a distant goal that we seek, but a means by which we arrive at that goal. We must pursue peaceful ends through peaceful means. We shall hew out the mountain of despair, a stone of hope. Giving of our treasure is how we reciprocate the many gifts we are given by this community and how we live our values in the world. Each Sunday, we offer our financial gifts to both this congregation and to an organization that gives life to these values and makes a difference in the world. This month's special collection is Dupage UU Church's The Smile Project. It was designed to provide mentoring and work experience to high school students who could use encouragement and help in preparing to enter the workforce after high school. We have mentored dozens of students, engaged with more than 20 types of business groups. In addition, family members of students have communicated the positive effects of these work experiences, as have our administrative contacts in the 4 high schools from which we've drawn our pool of students. As we pass our offering plate, know that it is a vessel that connects us to each other through our gratitude and our generosity. So give freely your thankfulness and abundance that our values can forever take hold in our world.
it is time to gather. And I would like to invite all the kids to come forward to join Pam and myself here in front of the pulpit. How you doing today? Cold. Feeling good? Cold. Cold. So I want to introduce myself to our visitors. I'm Steve Cooper, the Director of Religious Education at this church.
And I'm Pam Fodor, and I'm the Director of Programs at the Unitarian Church of Hinsdale. And I'm pleased to be here today with my good friend Steve. We've been friends and colleagues for over 20 years. I know, hard to believe. We're so young.
We met when we were 10. So we want to begin with a question that many of us have been asked at some point, sometimes kindly, sometimes with skepticism. Why are you Unitarian Universalists? What do you actually get out of it? Have you ever been asked that question? Why are you you? How do you think you would answer that?
I tend to say that
It's a humanist tradition that aligns with your values. Anybody else want to shout out a word or two? Tony? You always have something to... So, an acquaintance said that it is the only church she would allow her kids to enter. All right.
So that question isn't really about church membership. It's about meaning, about what holds us steady when answers are incomplete and the world is complicated.
So we have a few thoughts and examples that may answer the question. So let's start with conscience over comfort. There have been moments in history when following the law meant participating in harm. And in those moments, some people of faith chose conscience over comfort.
A long time ago, before the Civil War, there were churches where people argued about whether slavery was okay. Some people said, well, it's the law, so it must be okay.
But some Unitarian ministers said, if a law hurts people, then it's the law that's wrong. And they helped people escape slavery even when it was dangerous.
Theodore Parker was a Unitarian minister who believed moral law mattered more than unjust human laws. Reverend Parker was a radical abolitionist, part of the Secret Six, who supported John Brown and a vocal opponent of the Fugitive Slave Act.
He argued that religion must evolve as conscience evolves. He preached that truth and justice outrank creeds, and his theology insisted that faith must show up in public life.
Parker's belief in responsible living meant trusting one's own internal moral compass and translating that moral insight into committed action for the betterment of society, letting ethics shape theology, not the other way around.
Unitarian Universalism inherited the conviction that faith which never changes in justice isn't faith at all.
Our next example is love without conditions. During World War II, Unitarian ministers and volunteers helped Jewish families escape Nazi-occupied Europe. They did not ask people to convert. They did not require agreement.
Reverend Waitzel Sharp and Martha Sharp were Unitarians who risked and nearly lost their lives rescuing Jewish refugees and dissidents from Nazi-occupied Europe.
They helped hundreds escape persecution. They acted before it was popular or safe. They were motivated not by conversion, but by human worth. And they didn't ask what people believed. They asked who was in danger.
So let's talk about showing up when it costs something. Another story comes from the 1960s during the Civil Rights Movement. Black Americans were being treated unfairly and violently for trying to vote.
When leaders asked for help, Unitarian Universalists traveled to Selma, Alabama. They marched with people they loved and with people they had just met because they believed everyone deserves dignity.
Some went knowing there would be consequences. They went anyway. Some never came home.
James Reeb was a UU minister beaten to death in Selma while supporting the civil rights movement. He responded to Martin Luther King Jr.'s call for clergy. He knew the risks and went anyway. His death galvanized national support for the Voting Rights Act. This is a covenant made visible, standing with others even when it costs you.
And this is not hero worship. It's a reminder. Our faith asks not for admiration, but participation.
Finally, we are a faith willing to correct itself. UUs have repeatedly wrestled publicly with their own failures around race, power, inclusion, and harm through processes like anti-racism work and covenantal accountability. That willingness to say we were wrong and we must do better is itself a lived theology.
It comes down to that we are a theology that keeps growing. James Luther Adams is a Unitarian theologian who shaped modern UU thought, emphasizing that the necessity of institutions for justice, good things don't just happen, people make them happen. And freedom, all relations between persons ought ideally to rest on mutual free consent and not coercion. And ongoing reformation. Our religious tradition is a living tradition because we are always learning new truths. He believed democracy, community, and ethics were theological concerns, not just political ones.
Think of a moment when you knew the right thing was also a hard thing. A moment when showing up mattered more than being certain.
So when someone asks, why are you UU? The answer might be this.
Because here, doubt is not a failure of faith. It's part of it.
Because we are held together not by creed, but by covenant, by how we promise to treat one another.
Unitarian Universalism does not promise easy answers. It offers something harder and more hopeful, a community that keeps choosing love, keeps listening to conscience, and keeps showing up.
So may we have the courage to live our values.
And the humility to keep learning together.
So So please remain seated as we sing hymn number 168, One More Step, as the children return to their seats.
There is a Christian rock song by DC Talk, my favorite band as a teenager, called Jesus Freak. The song, in its mixture of hard rock and rap, describes what it means to be a follower of Jesus Christ. While it certainly glorifies martyrdom for a follower of Christ, which would explain the book the band published under the same title with real-life examples of Christian martyrs, the song articulated for me the seriousness of faith, a seriousness that I was raised in. The song speaks of the all-consuming thing that we call faith, how faith changes our whole selves in every way. While I certainly cannot believe in the words or sentiment of the song any longer, mostly because I can't believe in dying for a being who supposedly made a promise of heaven, and to be clear, that's not actually Jesus's message. I continue to hold the seriousness that the song imparted, the seriousness of what faith is, how faith dictates and determines my life every day, in every way. This is what the theologian Paul Tillich tells us. Faith, he writes, is the state of being ultimately concerned. The dynamics of faith are the dynamics of man's ultimate concern. The faith of my childhood, Dutch Calvinism, has proven to be inadequate. As a very young child, I knew there was more to life than a belief in some savior who would bring me to heaven to live in glory. Yet what has stuck with me is the necessity of faith itself. Faith is necessary for life. Faith as life. My faith lives in the possibility of a better world, a world where we meet our full potential as human beings in order to end injustice and bring about beloved community here on earth. Faith is not the same thing as belief. Belief is simple. I believe in love. Faith is complex. I have faith that love will transform me and the world. Faith requires of its followers not blind obedience, but deep commitment. There have been several times in the past 10 years in which my faith in the religious institution that is Unitarian Universalism has been challenged. A crisis of faith for how Unitarian Universalism shows up in the world. Oh, I believe in our faith tradition's potential, but I have yet to be convinced of our longevity or even our seriousness as a faith tradition in the face of authoritarianism, or just more generally in a world that offers other faith traditions with more substance than we sometimes offer. You see, I find Unitarian Universalism, as it plays out in the everyday, to sometimes be an anemic faith, without theological grounding, that engages in performative wokeness, acts for attention without authenticity. Faith in Unitarian Universalism is often thought of or approached as just another facet of someone's identity, something to pick and choose on the day and time. The truth about our faith tradition is that we love to feel good about ourselves, and we benefit from the systems that oppress folks of marginalized identities. And so we do things that bring us attention without making us too uncomfortable. But faith is not about a right attitude or opinion, something that the Unitarian theologian James Luther Adam warned us about, or even being part of the right religious institution. And faith is never comfortable. Faith is the intrinsic part of ourselves that calls us to be our full potential as human beings. Faith transcends our entire identity. It's not something that we dip in and out of. It's not something that we do when we are on display, but leave in the shadows when no one is watching. Faith is everything. Faith is a dangerous undertaking. Once you find your ground of being, the center of your ultimate concern, to live authentically and with integrity means that one is no longer free to be comfortable. This is the faith that I believe Unitarian Universalism can be. The faith that I see in this congregation more often than not. It is the faith that I know we must become if we are to face the hate and fear that is before us. This is not a faith of the anemic and performatively woke. It is a faith that consumes and burns us to become everything we are meant to be, so that injustice may be annihilated and love made real.
Thank you for the word. Thanks for bringing us that word, Mandy. Appreciate you. And thank you for bringing us, the Unitarian Church of Hinsdale, here to be with you this morning. It is good to look out and see you all, and imagine that this is a beginning of a shared journey together. Thanks for sharing how your early faith shaped your current faith commitments and aspirations for Unitarian Universalism. My Unitarian Universalist expression has also been informed by the tradition that I was raised in, as well as mystical traditions that still shape me. Like you, early and later influences inform my aspirations for Unitarian Universalism, and this is a time for us to aspire to be all we can be. A bit of my story. I was raised in post-Vatican II Catholic. I went to Catholic grammar school and high school. As a young child, I would sit in Mass and I would feel God inside me. I had that mystical connection that now I might call the divine or the holy, the spirit of life, love, and sometimes God. But that sometimes confuses people. The God that I felt inside me was taught out of me in favor of the old white man in the sky who uses he, him pronouns and sends people to hell. But that sense that there was more, that love, the divine spirit, was inside me and everyone and everything, and that never went away. In high school, one of my nuns was a liberation theologian, and that's where I learned the connection between social justice and religious commitments, other pernicious doctrines notwithstanding, along with that love. And in the words of retired president of our Stark King Seminary, Dr. Rebecca Parker, it is the love that has never broken faith with us and never will. And I am still grounded in Latin American liberation theology and other liberation theologies. They assert that God, love, the divine, has a preferential option for the poor and all marginalized people. And some theologians now, they extend that to the earth itself. And that faith is making love active and present in the world by working alongside of the oppressed. I'm inspired by Archbishop Oscar Romero of San Salvador, who was assassinated on March 24th, 1980, while celebrating Mass. He was assassinated by the government that opposed his message of solidarity with the poor, whose last broadcast message before he was killed implored the Salvadorian military with these words: "Brothers, you belong to your own people. You kill your own brother peasants, and in the face of an order to kill that is given by a man, the law of God that says, 'Do not kill,' should prevail. In the name of God, in the name of the suffering people whose cries rise to heaven more loudly each day, I implore you, I beg you, I order you, in the name of God, stop the repression." These words need to be said today, don't they? I hear echoes of them at Broadview as we chant at ICE. Love your neighbor, love your God, save your soul, and quit your job. When we could see them, they'd scurry away quickly into that building where people were captive. Love is at the core of all of these theologies. It underpins what they do and how they lived and how it is lived. It's not separate at all. It underpins the critique of capitalist societies that cause poverty, that they witnessed, lived among, and that we witness now. I came to Unitarian Universalism in the 90s at the invitation of two of my professors. They'd been members of First Church Los Angeles, which was founded by Carolyn Severance. Severance came to LA after leaving Theodore Parker's congregation. She had joined Parker's church after leaving her Presbyterian congregation because it would not take a strong stand against slavery. First, UULA was a bastion of progressivism and social justice, refusing to sign the loyalty oath required during the McCarthy era. Yep. The question is, maybe for later, is will we refuse? There were also introductions with vibrant earth-centered practices. So I expected Unitarian Universalism to be progressive, maybe pagans and socialists, I wasn't sure, but progressive in terms of economic critique, as it was when talking about racial justice, earth justice, immigrant justice, and women's rights. Given that we've entered late-stage predatory capitalism, which ushered in the authoritarianism and Christian nationalism we're experiencing now, I looked for this critique, and I looked for action. I was surprised to see that it was not always uniformly practiced or talked about, as I expected, that love would call us to protest also against the genocide being carried out with the assent and assistance of our government. We Unitarian Universalists have said we put love at the center of our values. Hell, we even voted on it. We voted on love. And many of us asked, especially at the time when we were looking at all of the values and the changes to Article 2, what is love? What is love? For whom? What does it look like? For me, the question as a mystic is, what does it feel like? I find this in the radical love of our Universalist ancestors, that unconditional, all-encompassing, transformative force that transcends boundaries. This isn't a passive love, it's an active commitment to justice, to fierce compassion, and to eyes wide open hope. How does it determine what we do and who we are as a faith? How do we make love real? Love is a choice, it's a practice, it's the ground of our being. Love stirs us to courage and requires risk. Bell Hooks reminds us the moment we choose love, we begin to move against domination and oppression. The moment we choose love, we begin to move towards freedom in ways that liberate ourselves and others. This love is not some maudlin sentimentality. It's a felt connectedness with and care for each other. It happens, when it happens, it evokes in us that sense that we're embedded in that love, and that this love is the most real thing and we're willing to risk for it. It is not the anemic love or the anemic faith that Dr. King and Reverend Mandy just admonished us about. As we consider our faith and what it's calling us today, the day when we celebrate Dr. King, let's remember we celebrate all of Dr. King, not just the parts that feel good. The look back is different than it was lived. In its manifestations in what we are experiencing in the fierce urgency of now, I return to Dr. King's admonitions about love and justice. Justice at its best is love correcting what stands against love. Power at its best is love implementing justice. Power without love is reckless, abusive, and love without power is sentimental and anemic. Like you, Mandy. I expect that risk in these times may ask things of us. And I ask myself, I ask us, what are we willing to risk? And how does our faith, the spirit of life and love, inform that risk? Because this is what we know. There is more love somewhere. Will we risk it?
Amen.
Spirit within you and around us, Beth, yes. The Spirit of love. That is what I understood faith to be as a child and what guides me today. Last year, in the building up to and through our country's presidential election, I felt the call of the Spirit, that same Spirit that Reverend Beth speaks of. As usually happens, I had several months of feeling generally unwell, the embodiment of exhaustion, stress, and what I'd call the burden of the prophetic. The Spirit's requirement of speaking the truth in power and love. The closer we came to authoritarianism, the more unrest my soul felt, and the more frustration toward our Unitarian Universalist tradition I felt. It came to a point that I once again found myself in a crisis of faith. Not for my own faith, but for our tradition, which claims so much goodness about the world, but is often caught up in its own comfort to really change things, or too interested in how it appears rather than the substance behind the action. This came to a very real moment for me when speaking with some clergy colleagues right after the election. These colleagues suggested that my sense of urgency was made up, or at the very least, fear-mongering. Instead, they felt that we should continue to dialogue with those on the other side. I questioned my response and what I felt the Spirit calling me to. So in my crisis, I also reminded myself of this truth. Like many white people, privileged people, this fierce urgency only feels more pressing now because my way of life is threatened. I know better. My chosen, immediate, queer, Afro-Latino, indigenous family has never not lived under authoritarianism. They have never been free to live as their liberated selves. So I did what a person of faith does in times of crisis. I tested and confronted what I was feeling. I turned to the theologians like Paul Tillich, who lived and died under Nazi power in Germany, to find a path forward, to test the call of my faith that I was feeling. I had a conversation with some UU colleagues led by Reverend Jason Leiden of Second Unitarian Chicago about violence and pastoral care. More specifically, on the necessity and urgency that injustice brings with it for violence. And then my partner was attacked and assaulted on the streets of Chicago by someone spouting the racist, anti-immigrant rhetoric of Christian nationalism. He reminded me in the aftermath that violence is as inherent to the lived experience of people of color as breathing. I knew I had to find that line of my faith, that boundary that I was unwilling to cross. As ICE began ramping up their tactics in Chicago this fall, my partner Elias and I had several conversations with our children about our roles as faith leaders and partners of conscience in a time of authoritarianism. And actually, even more so, conversations about what it means to be a person of faith, living with integrity, standing for truth to power and justice. Conversations about the possibility of us disappearing or dying. One night, sitting at the dinner table, I looked at my teens and I said, "You can live without me if push comes to shove, but you cannot live in a world that threatens your freedom and bodily autonomy." My faith compelled that statement. I would never willingly leave my children. And yet I stand by that statement. This is how I understand my faith, my whole self. Paul Tillich puts it this way: since faith is an act of the personality as a whole, it participates in the personal life. This is how I understand Unitarian Universalism, not a glorification of martyrdom, but the necessity of liberation and the sacrifices that are necessary for the freedom of all. The fierce urgency of now, beloveds, is here. It has always been present, of course, in a nation founded on the genocide of indigenous peoples and the unpaid labor of formerly enslaved Black people, children, and women. The difference is that there are no lines that are sacred for the authoritarians in our nation. They will do whatever it takes to create a society of homogeneity, of whiteness that allows the rich to get richer, Christianity to become an empire through Christian nationalism, and cisgender men to dominate and control. Civil rights activist Fannie Lou Hamer tied individual freedom to our collective liberation when she said that no one is free until everyone is free. This statement is part of what it means for us as Unitarian Universalists to truly understand and live the principle of respecting the inherent worth and dignity of all people. The fierce urgency of now is not new, but it is more imperative than ever. Over the past year, I have preached several times on knowing where faith's boundaries lie. My guess is that many of you are considering this, but there's an urgency, dear ones, that requires the answers now. It would be easy to remain within the confines of comfort, but Unitarian Universalism is not a faith for the anemic, despite the times it pretends to be so. No, our faith is forged in fire. The symbol of our chalice came out of the fire of Nazi fascism. DUC member Karen Peck reminded me recently of this Anne Rice quote: "One tiny flame could make so many other flames. One tiny flame could set the world on fire. Why, I had with a simple gesture actually increased the sum total of light in the universe, had I not." How will you increase the light of the universe, dear ones? How will you respond to the urgency of now?
Love's calling. Can you hear it? Love's calling. Love's calling you and me and us. Love called Theodore Parker, and he risked retribution in defense of abolition and his transcendentalist ideas. Love called John Haynes Holmes, and he risked rejection, holding fast to his commitment to pacifism during World War I. Prophetic speech inspired by Gandhi and committed to justice, co-founding the NAACP, ACLU, Planned Parenthood, because love called. Love called Martha and Watzel Sharp. They risked their security and comfort. Love called from Detroit to Selma to Montgomery, where Viola Luiso risked everything, family, certainty, to answer the call and lost her life. James Reeb answered Dr. King's call to name the inconvenient truths, the giant triplets of racism, militarism, and materialism. And now, beloveds, love's calling. All around. From the depths it emerges. Love's calling, stirring, luring, longing, leading, beating hearts for justice, peace, and liberation. Hearts beating, pulsing through bodies. Love's calling, me, you, all, us. Love's calling, beating hearts, bruised bodies, rising spirits from the borders, from the margins, from Broadway to Little Italy to Pilsen, from Minneapolis, Los Angeles, from Gaza, Sudan, Ukraine, and all around, from Renee to Silvario, all those known and unknown. Love's calling from prisons, detention centers, from the streets. Love's calling, whispering, shouting, raging, praying. Love's calling, singing within and all around us. We shall overcome. Can you hear it? Love's calling all, you, me, us, right here where we are. Love's calling this day and in every way. Love's calling, listen. From the depths it emerges, stirring, longing, luring, love, leading, hearts beating for justice. In these days, we are called to love. Today, Love's calling, Reverend Jason Leiden, prophet of queer liberation and prison abolition. Love's calling, Reverend Mandy, speaking truth to power. Love's calling, Reverend Allison Farnham, prophet of prison abolition and radical justice. Love's calling, Alex Capitan and Reverend Michael Slack, prophets of trans liberation, leading us with wisdom and courage. Love's calling, Dr. Robin Tanner from Charlotte to New Jersey to resist. Love's calling, Dr. Sophia Betancourt, who fills us with a fierce love and courageous action for our faith on this journey. Beloved, love knows no borders. It takes us to the depths of our grief and into hope, to the depths of our longing, to the depths of our souls. Love stirs in us with compassion and passion. Love rises into action, and love's fire melts ice. It melts ice, it ignites courage, it fuels resistance, it sustains resilience. Love flows through us, among us, to all of us, because siblings, love knows no borders. So it is love that calls us here in this time and place for the sacred purpose. For the sacred purpose, to prepare our hearts and our minds and our bodies to be witnesses for love and justice. Breathe with me. Love's calling. Love's calling. An invitation that we hear in the music that we'll hear in just a moment by Mark Miller, with words by Lindy Thompson in response to the murder of those 9 people who were murdered in a Bible study at Mother Emanuel, challenges us to go where forgiveness and love was offered, reminding us that choosing love is a faithful act, a daily spiritual discipline. Love's calling, beloveds. Let us choose love.
Our world has fallen apart, beloveds. And hate is hoping to have the final say, but it doesn't get it. Faith is one's entirety, as Paul Tillich says. It is who we are, how we show up in the world, and what we do to make the reality of beloved community possible.
We invite you to consider, what is your faith? What is love calling, requiring you to do during these times? Dear ones, authoritarianism isn't rising, it's here. And we are not here to tell you what actions to take, but invite you to embody your faith in whatever way is meaningful for you, in whatever way your body calls you to move.
We invite you in that commitment to come forward, to receive a blessing from Reverend Beth and myself, and to take a keychain with you as a reminder of your commitment to your faith. Please walk down the center aisles and go back to your seats from the sides. May you be emboldened and empowered in this work. You're welcome. May you be emboldened and empowered in the work of your faith. of your favorite. Yeah. Golden Day.
Friends, our time here has ended, but our service to the world continues.
Go forth carrying the love of this community into the world, that we may bend the arc of justice towards beloved community. I think so. Absolutely. Let's go.
We extinguish the light of this chalice, but not the light in our hearts. Until we meet again, may the warmth of our community carry you.
The workshop. One, two. If you're here for the workshop, it will begin in 5 minutes at 10:35. Go grab some coffee, some snacks, and come on back. We'll start promptly at 10:35.